Our phones have still been ringing off the hook about, tell us more about that no-dig vinyl fence system that you guys have. We're gonna tell you everything that you need to know about no-dig vinyl fence. So a traditional vinyl fence, what you're gonna do is you're gonna dig a hole, you're gonna pour some concrete, and you're gonna set that post in the ground in the hole, and you're gonna come back and assemble a fence. That's traditional. Now a no-dig vinyl fence, what you're gonna do is you're gonna drive a post, you're gonna take some of these nice beautiful donuts that don't taste very good, and you're gonna slide them over the post that you just drove in the ground with your driver, and you're gonna sleeve over that post with your vinyl post, making it a no-dig vinyl fence. Let's talk about posts. If I had an 1 7/8 post, could I use that instead of a 2 3/8? Not really, it doesn't work so well. They do make an adapter, but we don't offer it because we'd rather see you use a stronger post such as a 2 3/8. We're just gonna go ahead and say no. What size pipe should we be using with our pipe to post adapter? We should be using a 2 3/8 SS40 or at least an SS20. All right, so this post right here, this is 0.065. This is probably still thicker than what the big box stores are offering. I still wouldn't even recommend this. Once the wind hits it, this post is gonna buckle and fail. I don't know if you can hear how light that was, but it's gonna sound a lot thinner than this post. This is an SS20. This is the minimum of what you should be using. And I would not use this on a gate post because you still wanna use something thicker for all that main support. And here you can see, this is an SS40. It's commercial grade, and you can even see the wall thickness difference just between the two. What you're trying to do is you're trying to make a fence that's gonna withstand all that wind. It's essentially just a wall outside. Once the wind hits it, if you're not using the appropriate materials, it's gonna buckle and fail. We've seen this before. And unfortunately, metal's expensive. Could I please use just the thinner pipe just to get my fence installed? Sure you can. But when you're out there redoing it here in a couple months when it blows over, don't call me. The next step for us is to get a post in the ground. So what we would typically do, we'd go through and put a whole bunch of marks on the ground, just little dots of where those posts need to go. And we dig a little bit of a divot, and that divot is for where that post is gonna go. This tool is really good for it. It's nice and small. And you don't need to dig anything big, like anything bigger than that. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get that post to lock right into that hole. So you're gonna dig the little divot, you're gonna get out your post. We're gonna use an SS20. One thing about using the SS20 versus the SS40. The SS20 is not nearly as thick as the SS40. So if you have any obstructions in the ground, rocks, roots, or anything, what's gonna happen is your top of your pipe where your hammer is, whatever you're using for your driver, is gonna start buckling. It's not gonna hold up to all the beating of your driver as well as the SS40 is. So if you're in like sandy situations, yeah, maybe you need to look at using the SS20. Maybe you can use that, maybe it's appropriate. If you're in harder soils, such as like rocks, clay, stuff like that, where it's gonna take more effort and more force to get that post in there, maybe you need to look at going to the SS40 post. So we're gonna drive the SS20, we're gonna see what that looks like. And then how long of a post should we be using for this? We're using 8-foot posts, and that's what we use for all of our standard installs as well. For our gate posts, we're using a 9-foot post. So as you can see, we're stalling out. We're getting to the point of refusal with this driver because underneath us what we have is we have nothing but farm ground clay, and then we get into some pretty gnarly bedrock. And once we get into that bedrock, it usually stalls out on us. Now, I know there's a lot of you guys that have a lot of questions about driving in rock. Yes, you can drive in rock. It just depends on how bad the rock is and how aggressive of a driver you're gonna have to have. Now, as far as the driver that we're using, this is the Rhino Driver XA. And the way that this driver's set up right now is with the extended handles, so you don't have to use the ladder to get up there or to get up on top of the post. You can kind of see how we used an SS20, and I wanted to use this post just so that we could show what happens. So we were beating on that rock, and what's happening is that the pipe is actually starting to bell out right here, just from that hammer, the anvil, hitting it so hard and continuously beating on it. So if we were to use a 16 gauge post, I think we're gonna have to just drive this. I really think we're gonna have to drive it just to show it. We're gonna go ahead and drive this .065 2 3/8. Okay, so I'm definitely into the bedrock. I didn't drive on this as long as I did for the other one, for the one that was the SS20. I could already see it starting to bell out, and what it's gonna continuously keep doing is this layer is gonna fold to the inside, mushroom out, and keep on doing that. And once that happens, it's gonna get stuck in the chuck to the point where you gotta remove the bolts, and then you have to drop the chuck down, cut the top of the post off, pull the chuck off, pull the Rhino driver off. All because you wanted to save a couple dollars. Can you use .065 pipe? Can you use cheaper pipe? Sure you can, but I mean, like I said, in the end, it's your money, it's your fence, and if you gotta go out there and fix it, something you gotta ask yourself if that's how you wanna spend your Saturday. I don't like doing things twice, and I'm pretty sure that you don't like doing it either. You get what you pay for, ultimately. Now, I forgot to dig my divot before I drove, so I'm gonna go ahead and dig my divot now. Okay, you're gonna slide your donuts on. So these donuts have an oblong hole in them. That is so that you can level these donuts up to each other. Because sometimes when you drive a post, maybe your inside stiffener, maybe you didn't get it 100% straight and you need to shim just a little bit. Having an oblong hole allows you to do that. Now, if you hit a root and you really go crooked, right here is the point in time where you'd want to use the tool that I forgot to bring with me today. And that tool is the post bender. It works really good for the no-dig I-fence, it works really good for a no-dig chain link, and it works really good for the no-dig vinyl as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set this down at the bottom. I just like to put it in the center so that way I know I have a little bit of play. You can easily just throw it in there and hope for the best. You're gonna take some of these nice little self-tappers that are 1/4 by 1/4 by 1 inch. And you're gonna put 2 in the bottom. If you can get down to the bottom side, you can put a 1/3 in the bottom, but 2 will suffice. And also, along with that, if you have a cordless concrete nailer, you can do that as well. So you don't want your metal post to go above here so that way you can get your rail through and then you can get your rail lock on as soon as your fence is built. So you wanna make sure that your post never goes past this into the hole. So we need to level up this donut. We're just gonna take a level, 6-foot level. And we don't have to measure or nothing. We can obviously see that we're good there. Just like the bottom donut, we're gonna put 2 in. We're gonna take one more screw, and it can still rotate just a little bit. So I like to take at least one more screw and just go right in the bottom here. I did install this for a reason this way, because the donuts should be opposing each other and going in opposite directions. The bottom goes perpendicular and the top goes parallel with the fence line. This way, being perpendicular to the fence, when the wind blows, it's not blowing against this oblong, it's actually plastic on steel and there's no point of failure right there. Once you get that far, you wanna go ahead and grab your vinyl post. You're gonna sleeve it over your post, over your pipe adapter, and the post is gonna go right into that little divot that we dug before we drove our post. Obviously, we're a little bit tall because this would be your gap from the bottom of your fence to the top of the ground. So we'd want to push this in the ground just a little bit, and if it was a little bit tall, we'd trim it off or whatever we had to. We'd also use the beating block, and we could put this on top of the post. We could hammer this down. It's a protector cap, so that way it gives us a solid surface to hit on. We don't risk cracking out the post, we don't risk chipping the post, and we can actually hit the post with both hands just to beat it into its place. We would do this to set our flow of the fence or the height of the fence. So now that we got this one done, we're gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing to this post that we just did. We're gonna measure for our bottom rail, and our bottom rail is gonna go from metal post to metal post. See, it's going all the way in. So we're right at 89 7/8. The reason you need to do that is because that's gonna lock the rail in place. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop the rail in this side as far as we can until we hit that metal post. We're gonna come over here, we're gonna lift this post off that donut so that we can kick the bottom around a little bit, rotate it. Oh, there we go. And then you slide it all into that divot. So once you do that, I can't pull this rail out. It's locked in between the two posts. So once you get to this step and you get the rest of your rails put in, the rest of your post donuts on, your post sleeved, you can go back and you can set your height now. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a good flow with the grounds. You don't want big gaps like I have here. This is strictly just for the video. Your dog can get out through this gap down here. And you can take the protector, and this goes on the top of the post, allows you to smack the top of your post with your hammer. You don't want this, you can always use a piece of wood. It will crack out over time. So if this is something where you're going to continuously use it, maybe you need to look into getting something like this. You just drive that post right into that divot. And when doing this part, a bigger hammer than this typically helps a lot better. So that's good enough for today because this isn't a real fence, it's just a tutorial. If it was a real fence, I would make sure and get this closer to the ground, 100%. If you don't want to dig a big enough divot, you can always trim some of that bottom of that post off, so that way you don't have to drive as far. Or just use a bigger hammer, which I forgot. And one thing you don't want to have happen is you don't want this to happen. See how I have my metal post, it's too tall? Yeah, that's a rookie mistake right there. Don't have that happen because you'd have to pull it back apart. You'd have to trim that post off so your rail can pass through. So prime example of what not to do. But then you're gonna take these nice little 3-inch self-tapping screws, 4 per post. You're gonna go through the U-channel, through the donut, into the metal post. And then down here, you're gonna go through the post, through the donut, and into the post. And this is what's gonna set your height and keep your height set right where you want it. It's gonna lock everything together. Once all that's said and done, you can go ahead and do your infill with your pickets. You can cut your top rail, and after your top rail is in, you're gonna use your rail locks. We use these rail locks, and this holds everything together so that way the wind doesn't blow everything apart. You're gonna take your rail lock, you're gonna throw it up here. It has all the holes pre-drilled for you. You're gonna throw that rail lock up there. You're gonna take your 3-inch screw, and you're gonna go right through that rail lock, and it's gonna lock both rails together. And this 3-inch screw is gonna go through the top of the rail and through that second rib. And the reason that we use the 3-inch screw instead of just a short screw is because it has more holding power because we're going through another rib of the rail to make it yet again even stronger. More windproof, would you say? So what we're saying when we're saying that this is a no-dig vinyl fence, I know you saw me use a spade and involve some digging. You're correct, I did. We didn't actually dig a hole and fill it full of concrete with all those dirt spoils all over the yard. We were able to do this. We were able to do it really rapid, really fast, all within one day without the use of any concrete. And that's the whole point of a no-dig fence. Can you use this system if you still have to dig a hole because of a utility conflict or because of something else is hindering you and preventing you from driving that one post? Absolutely. You could have to set like 5 posts. But now, what if we get a post in the wrong spot and we have to remove it? It's easy, we got you covered. Say hello to my little friend. It's kind of like a handyman jack. Yes, you could use a handyman jack in the scenario as well. One of the nice things about it is it comes with a chain, has a big surface area plate to the point where once we get it all connected just like so, we're going to push down the handle, the post is going to come out of the ground. Since I didn't remove that donut, I got to go underneath it now. And there I got my whole post back out of the ground. Now, if you're still one of those guys that's, nope, I don't trust it. I got my reservations about it and I'm gonna keep digging my hole. Let's go take a little trip. Let me show you another fence. Here's the job that we just completed last year. It was a no-dig fence. And we got this whole entire thing done in one day. And as you can see, it's still standing. Nothing has moved, nothing has shifted. And it's just as good today as it was when we originally installed it a year ago. And it's even seen its fair share of high wind. Just last week, I think we had constant gusts, 40 mile an hour, 50 mile an hour, 60 mile an hour, all day long for a week solid, and even more throughout the winter. So if you still have your doubts about this system, I think you're always gonna have your doubts, and you just need to keep on digging your holes and setting your posts. It's Dan with SWI. We are Wyoming's Fence Company, and we hope you have a good dang day.